So we found a condo townhouse that we really liked and we put an offer on it, but we really didn't see this coming. Welcome back, guys. Today in this video, I want to share with you my experience of putting an offer on a house. In case you guys are also in the process of buying your first home here in Canada, I hope that this video will give you some insights on the offer process here in Canada and what to expect. And I'll also share with you some mistakes we did as first-time home buyers and what we learned from it. So as I told you in last week's video, we toured this relatively affordable condo townhouse, a cozy one-bed stacked townhouse in Swansea High Park area, which was around 400 square feet with a patio and a parking spot with only $330 something maintenance fees per month. And in case you want to know more about this particular unit that we viewed, then you can watch that in the video that I link up here for you. So this unit that we viewed, it wasn't perfect, I must say, but it was listed at the magnificent price of $459,000, which really sounds like a deal, right? So we viewed it on a Wednesday afternoon and we decided that yes, we wanted to put an offer on this. And this is what happened. I'll tell you the end-to-end process and how the whole thing worked out, or didn't work out. By the way, in case you are new here, this video is part of my house hunting series where I and my husband, as a first-time home buyer here in Toronto, are going on the hunt to find our first starter home in Toronto in the GTA at a price of hopefully under $500,000. And if you've been following the series so far, then you'll know that I'm going into this process with an open mind. I may end up buying a home, but if I don't find anything suitable, I might also end up not buying anything and continue to stay in my $1,280, 320 square feet apartment studio here. So let's start, guys. After we finished the viewing, we went on and asked the agent, so what are the next steps? What do we have to do if we want to put an offer and buy this home? And that is when the real estate agent started explaining to us about the offer night, which was supposed to happen the coming Friday at 7 p.m. And I'll explain more about that in a minute. So in any case, Friday, that was really close. We viewed it on a Wednesday and Friday was already offer night, so there wasn't really much time. And the thing was that we weren't really prepared. We weren't really in a shopping mode, but we were in a kind of a browsing mode, if you know what I mean. We were not 100% prepared, at least not psychologically, I would say. So the next thing that would happen was that there was going to be an offer night on the coming Friday, which was about 2 days after we viewed the unit. The offer night was set on Friday at 7 p.m., which meant that by Friday 7 p.m., we needed to put in our offer on the house in written. And just a quick note on offer night for those of you who are not familiar with this. An offer night is basically a set date and time that the seller and their real estate agent choose to pool all of the offers from all of the bidders at one point in time so that they can kind of compare offers and usually pick the highest bid. I say usually because, of course, as the seller of the house, you would normally want to go with the highest price, but that is not always the case for reasons that I will explain later. Now on to the next step. If the seller accepted our offer, in the next step, we would need to prepare a bank draft in the amount of 5% of the purchase price, which would need to be submitted to the seller's realtor. And all of that sounds pretty simple, right, so far? That's if you're prepared, which we were not really. So this is what happened next. We went home and of course spent the rest of the night figuring out what the ideal, what our maximum price would be. How much would we want to buy the house for? The listing price of this unit was $459,000, which was just too good to be true. And the agent already told us that most likely this unit would go above asking price, perhaps at $465,000 or even higher than that. And it made sense. I mean, I know the place was tiny, but this was at High Park, one of the most desirable areas in the GTA. But being cognizant of our budget, we wanted to make sure that we didn't overpay, and we also didn't want to pay above market price. When people go into the bidding process, sometimes they get so emotional that they risk paying much more than the market price, which if you can afford it is okay. I mean, if you really like the property and if you can more than afford it, then yeah, go for it. So before we decided what offer we wanted to put on the house, we wanted to do a bit more research. We researched various property websites such as House Sigma, Zoocasa, Zolo, and there are so many others. And we took another look at the houses, the condos, the townhouses that were offered for sale on the market at that time and kind of compared the prices, the locations, the square footage, the amenities, and so on. And in the end, we arrived at a maximum offer price of $475,000. To be honest, not very well founded in hindsight, but that was the number that we were comfortable with at that time. So after that, we contacted the agent and we told him that, okay, yes, we want to put an offer on this condo. But that was not it. There were still some decisions that we needed to make. Among others, whether or not we wanted to include any conditions in our offer. So some conditions that are common for a buyer to include in their house offer include financial conditions and status certificate condition. And for those of you who are not familiar with what this means, this is just a very quick explanation, and I might make another video on this in the future. Before I continue, this is just a very important disclaimer. I am not a realtor, not a real estate agent, and I'm not a financial advisor. So anything that I tell you in this video is just sharing from my own experience and from the information that I read on the web. So if you're planning to buy your first home here in Canada, then I would really encourage you to do your own research and work with a professional real estate agent or mortgage broker to get really accurate information. But I do hope that this video can kind of function as a primer for you to manage your expectations about the whole process. So what's the financing condition? A financing condition is a condition that you put in your offer that relates to you as the buyer being able to get financing. And in many cases, that could mean a mortgage. So if you have this financing condition as part of your offer, you will only need to go through with your offer if your financing, your mortgage gets approved. In the case that you applied for a mortgage and it turns out that it didn't get approved, with that financing condition in place, you have the right to back out of the contract. And in that case, you would not lose the down payment that you already made. But if you did not have that financing condition and it turns out that your financing didn't get approved, then you do not really have the right to back out of the deal and you could lose the down payment that you already made. On the other hand, there's the status certificate condition. So the status certificate is basically a document that specifies, that details everything about the property, including where it's located, its amenities, its budget, its financial statement. So it kind of gives you an idea of the state of the building that the condo is in. So the agent told us something that we didn't know yet at that time, which was that given two same offer amounts, the seller would usually go with the offer that has no conditions because it just makes the whole process much easier for the seller. There are no strings attached. And he advised us that we should possibly go with no conditions in our offer to have a better chance in the bidding process. But at that time, we just didn't feel comfortable not having that financing condition. One of the reasons was because we're first-time homebuyers. It's our first experience of purchasing a property here. And also at that time, we just started working with a mortgage broker. And we didn't really have a good sense yet of how firm our mortgage pre-approval was at that time. And by the way, if you're interested about the whole process of how to get your mortgage approved, there will be another video which I'll launch soon where I talk about how we got a mortgage pre-approval and why you should perhaps consider working with a mortgage broker like we did. So as I just told you, we were in the process of working with a mortgage broker to get our mortgage approved. But prior to that, we also applied for a mortgage online and we got a pre-approval for that. But the thing is that even though you got a pre-approval, it doesn't necessarily mean that your mortgage later on gets approved. It likely will if you supply them with the correct information and the right documents, but it is not a guarantee. And at that time, we were also not really happy about the rate and the terms, and that is why we decided to work with a mortgage broker who could potentially help us to get a better rate. The benefit of getting a pre-approved mortgage is that it kind of gives you an idea of the maximum amount of a mortgage you could qualify for. So in the end, we both decided that yes, we wanted to have a financing condition and also a status certificate condition in our offer. And so we let it rest for a day. And then on the next day, on Friday, when the offer night was supposed to happen, we finally arrived at a number. We decided on our maximum number before, which was around $475,000. But on the Friday, we decided what price we wanted to start with because we didn't want to immediately start with our maximum price. So we told the real estate agent that we wanted to start with a price of $471,500. And remember, the listing price was $459,000. So this was already about $11,000 above asking price. In the next step, the real estate agent sent us some forms that we need to sign, including the main document, which is called the Agreement of Purchase and Sale, which included the financing condition and the status certificate condition. We read carefully through all the documents, signed everything, and then shortly before 7 p.m., before the offer night closed, we submitted our offer. And then we waited, full of hope. And at that time, we kind of felt good about it. But then after around 15 minutes or so, the agent contacted us and told us that there were 5 other bidders. We really didn't see that coming. So everything changed then, and it seemed like we had a really, really small chance. So we just waited anxiously to see what's going to happen until finally the agent contacted us again and said that the seller has given us a chance to put a second offer. It seemed that the prices that were coming in just didn't meet the seller's expectations yet. So we thought about it, we considered. We really liked the unit and we didn't want to lose out on it, but we didn't want to overpay either. We didn't want to stretch our budget too much. So finally we arrived at the number $476,500 and resubmitted a new offer. And this was kind of nerve-wracking. And as I told you before, we weren't really super prepared, so we didn't go into this process super confidently. But well, the offer was submitted and all we could do was just wait. And then finally, after about half an hour, the real estate agent got back to us and he told us that unfortunately our offer got rejected and the condo went to someone else. I know, we were kind of disappointed. At what price, we didn't know yet at that moment, but please stick with me to the end and later on I'll let you know what the condo actually sold for. But before we get to that, let's just talk about some of the mistakes that we did, or more precisely, not really mistakes, but just things that stood in the way of us getting the house. Let's start with the financial side. We were in the early stages of the mortgage pre-approval process. The rate we got at that time was from a big bank and it was 5.09%, which was pretty high. But keep in mind that that was a few weeks ago and at the time of publishing this video, perhaps a month or so ago. And the second thing was that we were not really prepared in terms of our down payment. To be clear, we had enough money to pay for the 5% down payment. The problem was only that the money was kind of scattered in different accounts, and a portion of that was in our account overseas and not in Canada yet. So in order to get everything together, we needed to transfer some funds over here. And the problem was we didn't really have a lot of time. We viewed the unit on a Wednesday evening and offer night was on Friday, so everything was kind of hectic. And the second hurdle, if you will, was that we were inexperienced with the bidding process. This was our very first time of putting an offer on a house here in Canada, and we weren't really familiar with the whole process. And we also didn't do sufficient research. We didn't do enough research on the market price, what we thought the unit was really worth. And also we didn't seriously consider what the maximum amount was that we were willing to pay for our first home here. We didn't know and we didn't go with our best price, and that played a role in us losing out on a good deal. But don't worry guys, we didn't lose hope, we didn't give up. After all, this was our first time and it was an awesome experience. So after this experience, we went on and kept on looking and searching for other units, and we continued doing our research, especially about the market price. We shortlisted several units, we compared them in terms of amenities, location, but even more importantly, we finally managed to get all our ducks in a row. We prepared our down payment, so everything was in one place. We had that 5% prepared, ready in cash. And we also firmed up our mortgage approval, which I will talk about in one of my next videos. So now let's get to the selling price of that condo. So this condo was listed at $459,000, but it sold for a whopping $495,000. I know it feels as though they just switched the digits around. In other words, it sold $35,000 above asking. And we just didn't expect that. I mean, we knew that it would definitely sell above asking, but we didn't expect that it would be sold this much above asking. But now, after doing further research on house prices and the whole housing market, I actually arrived at the conclusion that this was a very fair and also a very good price. So in the end, guys, we weren't that disappointed. After all, as I told you, this unit, this condo wasn't perfect for us. It was a 7 out of a 10, and anyway, $495,000, that would actually be stretching our limit a bit, so we have no regrets about that. But if there's one takeaway from this, guys, in case you are also in the process of looking for your first home here in Toronto, I would recommend to you to not wait too long. It doesn't mean that you have to buy immediately, but just get the process rolling and start viewing some units and try to get a mortgage pre-approval. And if you find a unit that you like, start putting an offer on it within your price range. And even if you do not get the unit, it will be a very eye-opening experience. I promise you that. And equipped with that experience, you will go into the next offer process much more confidently. At least that was the case for us. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and you found it useful. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.